I didn't even think I would make it to the stage. So if you hear me cough tonight, it's because of Coke. 13 years ago, as a fairly new speech therapist, I'm not sure what I thought about how I could help these people that lost their ability to talk. I knew I wanted to help in that area, but I had no idea what exactly that meant. Shelley and I worked at St. David's Hospital with many stroke survivors. Every time we had to discharge someone because their insurance was done, it just bothered us so much. As many of you have heard at this very event before, we decided to start a nonprofit because insurance companies would no longer reimburse our stroke survivors because there was no improvement. Now, what did they think? Not improving doesn't that mean like they should get more therapy? It just didn't make sense at all for us. So we started Austin Speech Labs. We were kind of youngish. We had learned in school how to provide therapy. We worked with many stroke survivors, got experience, but we had no clue how to run a business. All we had in our thoughts was we were ready for a challenge to help stroke survivors that desperately needed help. And more than anything, stroke survivors needed hope for a future life because without any warning, just all of a sudden, they lost their ability to talk. Once they used up their insurance, they were discharged. Private therapy was expensive. They felt isolated, alone, and just no therapy.
You guys okay with the camera?
What we didn't know at that time as speech therapists was how this would dramatically change our lives. How we thought about therapy, how we thought about our stroke survivors, their families, how we thought about a person's need for hope in their life and their drive to get back of how they used to be before. All of that, none of it was taught in school. Over the years at Austin Speech Labs, we have learned a lot from our stroke survivors. Their drive to get better, their drive to get those words out, their drive to just read books, write. Some of them have cognitive problems, maybe like memory, problem solving, and some of them just have difficulty understanding. We've had clients who came to us that just could not even get a word out, couldn't read, couldn't write. Some of them just couldn't understand what we were saying. It was just not the language abilities. Many of them had physical disabilities. They just couldn't walk, couldn't use their dominant arm, and there's so many others. When I look at these stroke survivors and their struggles, it reminded me of a Sanskrit poem that I was taught by my dad. It goes, Dhrityaya tharyate manah pranendriya kriya. It means determination is the inner strength of our mind and intellect to persevere on a path despite obstacles and difficulties. That didn't make sense to me as a child, but you know what? Looking at these stroke survivors helped me internalize what determination truly meant. The determination and perseverance of our stroke survivors inspired us to think outside of the box. Some of these stroke survivors have to learn sounds of an alphabet again. They have to learn to put those sounds together to make words, to make sentences. to just have conversation, to provide therapy in a consistent way, and for them to continue to practice at home. We're trying to figure out what's the best way to do, and I'm sure you understand, right? Each one can say the sound differently, especially when it comes to vowels. My Indian accent is so different. Imagine me teaching them, and then another therapist teaches them. So we wanted an app, we worked at it, and so many of y'all have. But most importantly, now we have an app that helps them learn their sounds so they can put those words together. We were able to use that app and use it in therapy all of last year. I want to show you all a video of that app so you understand what I'm talking about.
Okay, so you're going to touch the video and then you're going to tap on the letter that sound represents. Okay. Good. Perfect. So we're going to do produce with pictures. So when you see that symbol, that represents a sound. And if you don't know what the sound is, you can push video. Okay. Or we can do this mirror. Good.
So the app that you just saw would not have been possible without the generosity and hard work of our very own board chair, Addie Mishra. He developed it pro bono, so our clients could use the app even outside of therapy to learn those sounds. Addie, please stand. Thank you so much, Addie, for giving hope to our stroke survivors. The other project that we're working on in collaboration with the brain-computer interface expert in our very own community, Dr. Jose Milan from University of Texas Austin Engineering Department, and with the help of his PhD student, we were able to develop a speech recognition system for our stroke survivors so their speech can be understood as it stands today while they're getting therapy to get better. We finished the study and the results look so promising. Our technology is patent pending currently. All these accomplishments at Austin Speech Labs over the years and our growth so far is because of just people like you. You made it possible for us to continue year after year to help our stroke survivors. Your donations throughout the years helped us grow, provide therapy to 1,200 stroke survivors, and that means over 160,000 hours of therapy over the last 13 months. Just your donations last year helped us send 21 stroke survivors back to work. They went back either full-time or part-time. And some of them do come to therapy maybe one day of the week to continue to work on their skills so they can reach their potential. You can see stroke survivors never give up. Many of you have supported by giving grants, volunteering, advocating, sponsoring through the years. Our stroke survivors are so grateful for your big hearts and your kindness. and for providing them an opportunity to receive affordable therapy for as long as they need it, for as long as they know that they can get better. Most importantly, our stroke survivors are finding their way back into having some type of life again, and hopefully to be able to get back to talking and doing things that they love to do, like maybe just being a parent, getting back to job, reading to kids, or just having fun. Stroke survivors are our heroes. Stroke is devastating, but you know what? When I walk at Austin Speech Labs, their positive attitude, their willingness to work hard every single hour. Sometimes they get that sound today, next day they come back, and it's just not there. It's so inconsistent until it becomes muscle memory. But they teach us to not give up because they are hopeful that they can get their words back. Communication is such a basic human need. The reason we are here today, so that we can actually socialize and communicate, the reason for our existence. We are so happy to see all of you here tonight. I just couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to expect coming back after the pandemic. We hope you've been well, and we hope you are doing good, staying healthy. Most importantly, I am so happy that you chose to share your evening, Friday night, with us here at Austin Speech Labs. I would like to mention a few of our incredible sponsors this year, because of whom we are able to do this event. Our presenting sponsor, Nelson Hood Foundation, our compassion sponsors, and Choreo, led by our board chair, Addie Mishra, and the Kane Foundation. Thank you to our resilient sponsors, Casey Gwynn and family, Catherine Luke Casey and Tucker Grundy, Robert and Donna Hollingsworth, Casey and Scott O'Hare, Brian and Adria Sheck, Dr. Stephen Borick and Dr. Mary Abreu, and Laura and Andrew York. This year, we had an outstanding number of sponsors. We had 59 sponsors. And we added 7 new organizations and 3 individual new sponsors. Thank you so much for your support, and welcome to our Austin Speech Labs family. To all the first-time guests, I hope as you go through the night, watching the video, listening to our clients speak, you will understand our stroke survivors' journey, their hardships, their recovery, and consider joining Austin Speech Labs family in helping our stroke survivors regain their communication skills, one word at a time. Oh, finally, Shelly and I did figure out how to run a business. Now, we'd like to share with you a short video funded by one of our grantors, the Anderson Foundation. They are so generous. They not only fund our programs, they fund operations, train us on getting our tools so we can serve our mission. So thank you, Anderson Foundation, and all our grantors. And the video is being produced by Key Ideas. Please enjoy the video. Thank you.
I I will play a wild card and I'll make it green. And Uno. February 26th, 2020, I had a stroke.
I got a text message from his boss that said that he had left work not feeling well and that they couldn't get a hold of him. He lost sensation in the one side of his body and had to sort of drag himself to like a carport behind this unit, and he got out there, and then there happened to be these tree trimmers working and they called 911.
What is the most difficult part of going through this process?
Spelling, texting is easy. Spelling you and me is hard.
Every year in Texas, there's approximately about 60 to 70,000 strokes that happen. Of those, about 1/3 to 2/3 end up having communication disabilities, which means they need therapy. They are in therapy for a long time. What Austin Speech Labs does is gives them a place to receive intensive speech therapy to build those building blocks again.
To lose your ability to communicate is quite frankly very devastating. And it's not only devastating for the clients, but it's also devastating for their family members, their loved ones. And one of our jobs is to help train the families in ways that they can successfully communicate with their loved ones.
When Tom came to us, he was kind of getting single words out. He couldn't write and willing to work so hard. And 2 years into it almost now, Tom is able to put a sentence together. He attends individual therapy. He gets group therapy to practice in group environment. Tom loves music, so he gets music therapy. Sometimes when he's stuck on a word and he can't get it out, he uses music lyrics to communicate.
I believe when I fall in love with you, it will be forever true. I believe when I fall in love, it will be forever.
At first he wasn't able to communicate that well, but now he's able to communicate much better. It makes me so happy just to see his improvement.
The best part about seeing him getting better is seeing how far he's come. I'm very grateful and thankful for everybody who's helped us.
Julie, Kate, and Olivia, we are beautiful. Julie rocks my world.
For them to get therapy for as long as they need it requires therapy to be affordable, gives them an opportunity to come so that financial burdens don't stop them. So having affordable therapy means we need community support to continue it. I can't wait to see the day where Tom can have conversations with his hard work and his family's support and our community support. I know he'll get there.
I love Austin Speech Labs. It's great. It's amazing. Tom's review, 5 stars.
There are angels in this room, and you just saw and heard from 2 of the many. The vision statement of Austin Speech Labs, I want to share with you. The vision statement is this: we strive to improve the quality of life for stroke survivors and their caregivers
by re-engaging them in their personal and professional lives. And why is that important? Well, you've seen why that's important. Because everybody who's touched by stroke and everybody who's touched by the therapy that's offered at Austin Speech Labs, it's a ripple effect, right? It extends not just to them, but to all of the people in their lives, personal and professional, and we're so grateful. We're so grateful, not only for Austin Speech Labs, but for those of you who help support it. So that's what's coming next. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Fund a Need effort that's part of the fundraising we're working on tonight. And I'm going to give you a brief overview of that, and then we're going to have the opportunity to hear from three incredible people, and I know you'll be moved by their stories. First, just an overview of the Fund a Need effort. Fund a Need is designed to help Austin Speech Labs achieve its goals of helping even more people. So our hope is that tonight we'll raise $100,000. Thanks to more angels, Carolyn and Jack Long, Miriam and Jim Malva, and an anonymous donor, every dollar raised up to that amount will be matched dollar for dollar. So we have the opportunity to actually raise $200,000 tonight. In a little while, I'm going to walk you through some donation cards that you'll find on your tables that have different levels of donations that are suggested. Let me say this. We realize very gratefully that many of you have already given and been incredibly generous in your support of Austin Speech Labs. And others of you might be thinking about it, or perhaps you might not have had the opportunity yet. So after we hear from some amazing people, we're going to give everyone just a few minutes to sort of think about participating in the Fund a Need effort. And we'll talk about that in a little more detail. For now, let's get inspired. I'm going to introduce you to three stroke survivors whose stories are incredibly moving. Candace Barrow, Tom Leonardis, and Jocelyn Harris. And I welcome you to join me in giving these speakers your undivided respect and your undivided attention and your undivided love. Let's welcome Candace Barrow.
Children, Destiny, Candace, and Clayton. My husband is Clayton Schaefer. Clayton and I ran a company. I had stroke 5 years ago today. I was 19 20 me 9 years old with 3 children. I 3 months. After the stroke, I could just say few words. I could not read and write. Now I'm reading books and story. Look at me go. I do therapy 4 days a week and practice. It is hard, but I have to get better for my family. I hope to work soon. Please donate.
That's enough. I can't speak. I'm Tom Leonardis. I'm the father of 3 boys and 1 daughter. I've been married to Rose 50 years now. I am the Amber Industries CEO until I had a stroke in 2015. I was at the club taking golf lessons from a pro named Lonnie. I was moving to the second hole and hit the shot, which was terrible. And then I hit another one, which was even worse. I was talking but not making any sense. Lonnie told me to go home and tell Rose. He was behind me in the car and made me sure I got to the house. Rose found me hunched over in the living room and called 911. The operator said I was having a IAT. I was taken to St. David's Hospital. The next morning, they took me for an x-ray and for an MRI. I had a stroke. The left side carotid artery closed. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks in intensive care. Rose and my sons were there, but I didn't recognize them. And I couldn't comprehend anything. Those got information for Texas Texas Neuro Rehab. One of our neighbors was a physician therapist there. After I discharged from the hospital, I went to Texas Neuro Rehab, and I was there for about 2 weeks for therapy. I wanted to go home, but I had to be able to shower and shave before they would discharge me. When I left, I was able to walk without help. If you looked at me, you wouldn't know I had a stroke. And the accomplishments since my stroke. Excuse me. People would look at me and I wouldn't tell my head yes or no, but I didn't understand them. I could talk, but I wasn't making much sense. Shortly after that, I came to Austin Speech Labs. I was a very good patient when I first came. I was not in a good mood and did not want my picture taken. I remember thinking, this will take a couple of weeks and I'll be going home. How do I take all the things at North Austin Speech Labs and make them work for me? I wondered when I would be done with Austin Speech Labs and be ready to enter my new life. I have come to realize that there isn't a new life, but that therapy is an integral part of my journey now. Austin Speech Labs, I learned to connect words and understand the meaning of the words in individual and group therapy. This was a major accomplishment since my stroke. I have had more capacity to read and enjoy them. I have also worked in memory with problem-solving skills during my therapy. It is getting better every day. I like to think I'm challenged every day at Austin Speech Labs to reach my potential. 3 years ago, my hands begin shaking. So I went to see a neurologist who diagnosed me with Parkinson's disease. Now I am on medication, and Austin Speech Labs provides me ongoing, keep me cognizant sharp. I used to be a golfer, but not too much for the first 6 months after the stroke. When I went back to golf, it was terrible. I slowly started going to the practice range by myself a couple of times a week. I began going back to the gym about 3 years ago and continued to practice golf. Since last year, my goal is much better. I have also made friends at Austin Speech Labs, and we play golf together most of a while. We share a lot in common, most importantly, how to coordinate after the stroke. Shilpa, Sherry, Cassandra, and all the therapists at Austin Speech Labs have been kindly to help me every day, to challenge me and keep me going. I would like to thank my wife Rose and my family for all the support and their help. Please support your Austin Speech Labs.
Hi, everybody.
name is Chef Jocelyn, and I'm going to teach you guys how to make the kitchen sing. And if you know, you know. Okay, no, seriously, now that I have your attention. Seriously, my name is Jocelyn, and I am a ruptured brain aneurysm and stroke survivor. I am also a mother to Malia, who is a rising star at TCU. Go Frogs! And I am the daughter of Valerie Harris, a retired nurse. They have been my primary caretakers for the past year and a half. Prior to my stroke, I was a trained pastry chef who owned and operated my own bakery and catering company called Sugar Plum Pastries. 2 years before my stroke, I wasn't happy with the way my life was, so I decided to take it back. I lost a whole human, 125 pounds. And then I started to take food very seriously. Beyond that, I was a culinary instructor, a substitute teacher, a mentor, and an avid volunteer for Austin ISD. So, let's talk about how I got up here. In the beginning of November 2020, I started not to feel well. I thought I was just run down from those previous trips and stress from getting back from my grandmother's funeral. I went to a doctor a couple times, and over 2 weeks, they kept saying I had a sinus infection, and to let them know if it doesn't get better. It wasn't until Sunday, November 22nd, 2020, that I laid down for a nap, and my life was forever changed. That day, when I finally woke up and I was dazed and confused, I talked to myself, and then I just realized something was wrong in that moment. I tried to use my phone and call for help, but I couldn't even remember how to use it correctly. I tried to push buttons, and when the person answered, I couldn't communicate. I tried to talk, nothing. I tried to write, nothing. It was like a bad game of charades. They finally guessed, and what was crazy is I had enough sense to grab everything I needed to get into the car and get to the hospital. I was so overwhelmed, and I just remember thinking that I was okay and wanted everyone to leave me alone. I kept hearing them say, we have a possible stroke patient. Ultimately, after all the testing, the blood draws, the x-rays, I finally made it into my room, coherent and communicating to the best of my ability. Then, in a flash, I was in the back of an ambulance being transferred to St. David's Neuro ICU. The next thing I knew, I was rolled into surgery because I had a ruptured brain aneurysm that had caused my stroke. They ended up stopping the bleeding by adding a coil and a stent to make sure of it. Of course, at this time, I didn't understand the severity of it. I ended up spending the next 10 days, including Thanksgiving, in St. David's Neuro ICU. I have faced every type of therapy to get me to where I am today. I graduated from intensive occupational therapy, physical speech therapies, and additionally, I completed a St. David's adaptive driving school. The hardest, most challenging part of my recovery has been my invisible disability. People are very quick to judge me and perceive me as the old Jocelyn, when I'm still struggling with things that they don't even have a clue or can't even see. I want to yell for the rooftops, I'm still recovering. My current disabilities include our memory issues, cognitive fatigue, processing, sensory processing, and difficulties. As I was in my healing and recovering stage, my life took another turn. That I wasn't quite ready for this soon. I knew this day was gonna come, but what I didn't realize that it was gonna happen this soon. In February 2022, I received a call that my father was sick. He had had another stroke and went into surgery to replace a stent and needed some help. All I could think about was, what could I do 300 miles away? Then that was quickly resolved when his doctor called me and said he can't live alone anymore. We need to have a talk about the next steps. I could hear in my mind, I'm not ready for this, but I also knew the answer to what the doctor was asking me. With no hesitation, I told his doctor that he would move to Austin with me. This is something This is something that was very hard. I don't remember a class or a YouTube video to help me dealing with your elderly parents. But as of March 27, 2020, he moved in with me. He's actually here with me today. And I am not ashamed to say that I've had to go to the closet to scream and cry it out. But one thing that I have is the support of Austin Speech Labs, a community where he is now a patient with me, guys. I was told this is the first time in Austin Speech Labs history that they have had a parent-child duo as patients. We're overachievers over here, overachievers. All right, I really believe that having your life, as you know, taken away from you in an instant, you tend to reevaluate every part of it. We often take life for granted because we forget that it's fragile and can change in a second. During my time in Austin Speech Labs, I've learned quite a bit. But one thing that has stuck with me as an overthinker is that all I wanted to do is focus and dwell on the future, my goals, and what my end game would look like. Would I be able to get back to my normal self? How long would this journey take? I stayed in a constant overwhelm. I learned to take the step that you see right in front of you. I learned to take the step you see right in front of you while working towards your more intimidating long-term goals. The one thing that I understood, my daily gratitude mantra, I choose to live life with gratitude in my new attitude. Now I am in my last boot camp at Austin Speech Labs. I spend my time between being a patient and I volunteer. I've had the pleasure of mentoring a 25-year-old stroke survivor on her new journey. And no, you didn't hear me wrong. I said 25 years old. Strokes don't discriminate based on age, gender, and or race. I was in a session with her on Wednesday and she said she would be faced with some big decisions ahead. We talked a bit and my last words to her before our session ended were, when you allow yourself space, you can give yourself the grace. As a volunteer, I'm able to give back to others that are going through the same things I am, or I did. I remind myself and them that in order to love who you are, you cannot hate the experiences that shaped you. Thank you so much, Austin Speech Labs, my family, for giving me back my communication confidence to return to the world. Thanks, guys.
Thank you to the survivors for your courage and for sharing your stories, for sharing your journeys, and thank you to their caregivers for all of your hard work and their efforts. So, my friends, you've heard about the impact of stroke, and you've heard about the impact of stroke recovery. And I think you probably also realize that stroke recovery is an ongoing and lifelong process. So as Austin Speech Labs continues to grow and to provide free and discounted therapy, they need your support. And so what we're gonna do now is ask you to help us. Help us help stroke survivors and their families right here in the Austin community. So I want to encourage you to donate, and I want to assure you that your donations of any amount make an incredible difference. I'm going to ask you to join me in making a donation that's meaningful for you of any amount to help us reach our goal this evening. As I mentioned before, we have the incredibly generous matching program, so we have the opportunity to raise up to $200,000 tonight just through that. So if you'll take a look at the cards that are at your table, they can help you make your donation. And we're going to bring the lights up just a little bit. And what's going to happen is our event committee members will be walking around to collect your donation cards and answer any questions that you might have. There are some different donation levels that are suggested on the cards. a description of what each level contains. I think it's in your programs. It should also be on the screens, although I can't see the screens. But there are different suggested levels. These are just suggestions, so feel free to choose an amount that really works for you. And then as we reach the end of our program tonight, which isn't now, so don't get up and leave just yet. But as we reach the end of our program tonight, we'll hopefully have a total that we can announce for you. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to work on that, but while you're doing it, I'm going to talk to you about what's coming next, which is the introduction of our keynote speaker. You are going to hear from our keynote speaker, Robert Hollingsworth. Robert is the treasurer of the board of directors of Austin Speech Labs. Robert is a retired tech industry executive and an active angel investor who has served on the board of Austin Speech Labs for more than 4 years. Robert is an incredible advocate for Austin Speech Labs. We're lucky to have him. I've personally been in meetings and been amazed at all of his work as treasurer of the board. And so in a few moments, I'll proudly introduce you to Robert Hollingsworth for our keynote address. In the meantime, feel free to work on your fun-to-meet cards, and then we'll stand around and be ready to pick those up when you're ready. Thank you so much.
Our first word, one word at a time event on May 3rd, 2016. That particular experience was inspirational for the very reason of what you just experienced as individuals here. Stories that were told by individuals about their lives, the changes that affected them, and the impact of their relationship with Austin Speech Labs. And I can tell you it was one of the most moving experiences in my life, and it continues to be every year that we're able to have this same experience. Now, I wanted to get involved, but I'm kind of a financial guy, and I wanted to understand about the distribution of the funds that were available to Austin Speech Labs from their donors. So I went to GuideStar.com and looked up their 990 tax forms because we had parameters that we had set for things that we wanted to establish as goals for nonprofit organizations that we supported. Austin Speech Labs met every goal in terms of their financials, in terms of how the ratio of the amount that we gave to how much actually benefited the individuals who were involved. And it was just incredible. So they passed that test, let's say. So I can tell you now that I'm much more intimately involved with the fiscal aspects of the organization, that your money will be used extremely well, and it will be applied according to a very strict budget, and there is no waste. And extraordinary things happen, and they react to them, and they handle it professionally and with expedited success. And I think you will find that your money will be well used, and you'll see more people arriving on this stage that can tell you stories about their future. And one more financial note before I move on is, if you ever achieve the possibility of achieving the age that I'm at, where you're over 70 and a half, you'll discover that every year, if you've been fortunate enough to build a 401k plan, you're required by law to withdraw some percentage of that. It's an established procedure. And those monies that you withdraw are taxed as if it was ordinary income to you, unless you direct that money to go directly to a 501c3 like Austin Speech Labs, in which case you meet the criteria for the withdrawal, but there's no tax associated with it. So I think you should check with your financial advisor, if you're in my age bracket, to see whether this is an appropriate vehicle for you. You can achieve the same tax benefits that I So in addition to realizing that Austin Speech Labs is very efficiently managed, something that we learned was that stroke survivors vary. They vary differently in terms of the degree of their impairments, how it impacts each of them individually, and the range of impairments is pretty broad. So Austin Speech Labs has developed an evaluation mechanism that they use to establish a category, which then guides the therapist in terms of how they apply the therapies that have been developed here to benefit each individual stroke survivor based on their particular circumstances. Now, if you have the background that I have, you'll recognize that this is called engineering. And that's what they're doing, is they're re-engineering each one of these individuals. And it is not a single program where everyone gets the same diet. It's a program where it's adapted for every individual need. And that's what makes it unique, and I believe it's also what makes it possible for individuals like the ones you just saw to come up here and stand in front of a crowd of 400 people and tell a story as moving as what you just heard. So, also, as I'm sure you're all aware, we are in challenging times as a world, as a country, as a city, as an individual organization, as a family, where everything is financially challenged right now. I mean, in my life, only one time before do I remember inflation being characterized as being in the range that it is today. And everything that we face in terms of providing services to our clients has increased in cost. To give you an example, 2 years ago, a calculated cost for us to give an hour of therapy was $55. Our budget target for 2022 is actually $73. And we provide this service to our clients, and we charge them $30 an hour, except we also apply what's called a needs test. And for those families where that's not possible for them to provide that amount of financial support, we actually discount and we subsidize that. We subsidize it based on donations that we get from, of course, from people like yourself and from grants that we compete for. And when I say compete, you have to realize that grants are a competitive environment, and Austin Speech Labs has incrementally over the years become much more capable of being able to successfully compete for those grants to provide augmentation to the generous donations that we get from an event like this. If you were in a standard community in the United States, you would probably find that speech therapy would be offered to you at a rate of between $150 and $200 an hour. And that makes sense. If it cost us $73 an hour to deliver it, and you were doing it as a business, you obviously would need to charge enough to be able to provide that service and make money. But we're a nonprofit, and as a result of that, we're able to combine our donations and our grants, and we're able to offer that type of service to our community at an incredibly low rate. The issue, though, is that we have a waiting list. We cannot meet the demands of this community. It has been estimated that in 2017, about 1,000 patients were released from hospitals in our community area who were diagnosed with strokes that included speech impairment. We're capable with the funding that we have today to provide the type of services that we provide to between 140 and 150 patients, individual patients per year. And remember, from what you heard, a lot of these patients are not patients who had a stroke yesterday. They may have had a stroke 10 years ago, and they're still in the process of going through the evolution and the clinicals to be able to improve their capabilities. So this is our largest source of funding, this gathering right here. It's a one-time-a-year type of event. And many of you here are regular donors to Austin Speech Labs, and on behalf of our entire board, I really want to provide a thank you for your generosity and the commitment, the annual commitment. You know, the part of the best thing about coming to an event like this when we get to do it in person is that we see people that we've seen. I may not even know you, but I've seen you year over year. You've seen me year over year. And we're here continuously supporting this type of an organization. So with our match being left open until the end of May, this is not the end of it right here. This doesn't have to be the end. If you've seen something here that moves you and you share it with someone who you may communicate with after this event, they can feel free that they can still achieve access to our matching donation and move forward here. So I hope you were as moved tonight as I was in 2016, and we'll make a gift to help stroke survivors recover one word at a time. Thank you.
We're back. It's been 3 years, you guys. I can't believe it. I'm so happy. I'm like grinning from ear to ear. I'm so happy to see each and every one of you in person. And I know we all have a lot to consider when we leave our house every day. So more than ever, we appreciate you guys being here in person. Yay! Okay, so we're gonna wrap up the evening with a huge round of applause for Kathleen Casey. She is our event chair and helped make this evening a huge success. So thank you to her, and I also want to thank Elle Kemp, Christy Oliver, and Shilpa Shamarpant, who have worked tirelessly these last 2 weeks. And I would be remiss not to mention that we pulled Missy McCarroll and Ann McIver out of retirement again for this night, but I promise this is the last one. And I did want to mention that the bouquets of flowers on your table are available for purchase for $25. You can pay for them on your way out if you forgot that Sunday is Mother's Day. That's a great little handle gift. And you can pay for those at checkout on your way out the door. And you can have as many as you want. And now on to my final thoughts for the night. I have to let you know that over the past 2 weeks, I've really struggled with what I was going to talk about tonight. And this did not sit well with my youngest daughter, Piper. Piper was born 3 weeks after our very first One Word at a Time, and she has been a part of the fundraising committee ever since. So she has been hounding me night after night. What are you going to say, Mom? What are you going to say? You have your speech? Is it done? And I try to hole away in my office, and she'd make the rounds. Mom, how's it going? And I just shoo her away and say, I need some space. Until she had enough. And she finally said, Mom, put your paper down and let's just talk. What did she ask me? She said, Mom, what is it that you like about Austin Speech Labs? What do you like about your work? I go, that's a good question. One thing I really have come to love is our board. Now, my experience with the board, I worked in hospitals in the past, and the board was just like pictures of people on the wall. That was really my only experience with the board. But I didn't understand how instrumental our board is and would be in our organization. These past few years, we've had several hiccups along the road, and we'd send out an email or a text, and I mean, one came and built a computer for us the very next day. They are hands-on, they are getting into the thick of it, and we really love our board, so I just want to give you all a round of applause. And I have to say, I love our staff. Like on the 4th of May the 4th be with you, some of them were dressed as Baby Yoda. They are dedicated to their work. And they're just very intelligent, hardworking, and it has been hard. We'd have to shift and do a lot of hybrid therapy, and these women that we work with are very creative, very dedicated, and I just love seeing them every day. And our volunteers. So we have so many young people that are excited to learn, and we have community members that are willing to give back, which it just really blows my mind. So right now we have students, we've had, one of them's here from Virginia, we've had students from Nebraska, Arkansas, all over Texas. We have speech pathology students, we have pre-med students, we have bioengineering students, we've had nursing students, med students, we have junior league volunteers. We have so many people that are just willing to give back, and that just blows my mind every day. So thank you. And I love our clients. I mean, how could you not? You guys got to meet 3 of them tonight, and each one of them have such a heart-wrenching story, and they've come so far and worked so hard. They push each other. I love it when they are friends outside of therapy. It's really cool to see. And I'll never forget when Clayton and Candace came to the office for the first time. Candace was 29, and they were taking pictures of themselves in front of our logo. And Clayton just looked at me and he kind of just took a deep breath, and he was like, "We are so excited to be here." And that just kind of blew me away that, they were so looking forward to this place. She had a journey ahead of her. It's been 5 years, but she's doing awesome. But they felt like this was a place where her journey was going to be able to continue instead of just sitting at home, not getting any therapy. So I love that we are able to offer that. Mom, that's a great start. Now tell me, and she really did ask this question, I'm kind of blown away by it. She said, why is Awesome Speech Labs important? That's a really good question. It's important because everybody deserves a chance to fight for their words. It shouldn't matter if you have money, it shouldn't matter if you have insurance, your skin color, your age, what languages you speak. If you're willing to do the hard work of speech and language recovery after a stroke, then you deserve a chance to fight for it. And that's what we do. We offer a space and a chance for recovery at an affordable price. That's why I like my job. Just the other day, I had a client come in. It's a caregiver. One of our clients passed away in March, and the caregiver called me and she said, I have something to give you. And she handed me a check, and she said, I want to be the first person to donate to your fund in need on behalf of my husband, Clyde, because this place was like a home to him, and I know that this is where he would want his money to go. She told me, I don't know what he would have done without this place. It was like a home to him. He had young people here that he could talk to and tell about his life stories. He had peers to connect with. And coming here gave him a purpose. And we are both so grateful for it. And I just love that we can have that impact on people. Mom? I think you have your speech. I think you're right. Thank you, baby. Anyways, that's my speech, and we are so grateful. Oh, I did get word in my ear that we have actually met our $100,000 match. Of your support, and you're always standing by us, and have a good night.